probably said more times. In my line of work, you got to keep repeating things over and over and over again for the truth to sink in. Kind of catapult the propaganda.
After we invited Scott Ritter on the show, former Marine, former unscum weapons inspector, a person who should have been taken much more seriously by people larger than me in the build-up to this war in Iraq, because now that you hear about a whole new generation of veterans who are going to be thrown away by this government, who are going to be ignored by the American people all over again, doesn't it just make you wish that we would have listened to Scott Ritter, who was assuring this government and people who would listen to him in 2003 in this build-up up to war. He repeatedly stated that Iraq possessed no weapons of mass destruction. And he was condemned for saying so. And, of course, he's been right all along. And as a former Marine, I just thought before we start the conversation on his book, Target Iran, and what would happen if Iran attacked us, which he fully well knows, I thought that I would ask Scott. Hi, Scott. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thanks.
I thought I would ask you about this new generation of throwaway people that are just languishing on the post of Walter Reed.
Well, I mean, that's a tough one. I've always said that before we ask the men and women who honor us by wearing the uniform of the Armed Services of the United States to go off and make the ultimate sacrifice, that we, the people, have an obligation, a duty, a responsibility to ensure it's a sacrifice worthy of the cause. But that's just part one. We have an entire generation of Americans that have been pre-programmed from their very birth to embrace war as something glorious, noble. We got rock and roll music playing in our heads when we take a look at the videos and stuff. The reality of war is completely different. I don't care who you are, how strong you are as an individual. When you cross the line of departure for real and you close with and engage the enemy and you do things and you see things and you have things done to you, you're changed forever. And as a society, we have to stop cheering when we go to war. Even if a war is justified, the day we go to war should be a day of mourning, because
a day of sacrifice. It should be a shared sacrifice.
It should be a day of mourning, because we are having an entire generation forever changed, and we as a nation need to be ready to receive these people, both those who are physically injured and also those who are psychologically injured. I mean, war is a transforming event, and I just think especially this war in Iraq. I wasn't around for Vietnam. I don't know what kind of chest thumping went on about that war. I saw America thumping its chest, sticking it out, saying, we are the biggest boys on the block. Aren't we bad? 3.5 weeks we took Baghdad. We kicked ass. We did wonderful stuff. Hoorah, support the troops. You know what? Every single one of those idiots who stood on the street corner waving the flag saying support the troops, they didn't support the troops, and they don't support the troops. If they supported the troops, they'd go to Walter Reed, they'd hold the hands of these people, they'd be with them when they'd go to each funeral, but they don't. They just sit back and wallow in their ignorance and continue to stick their chests out as though war is some sporting event. And that's what disturbs me, most of all, because I can forgive ignorance. I can't forgive people using war as a tool of self-gratification. And that's what it's become for most Americans. We don't go to war. We send others to war, and we sit back and revel in their assumed glory. There's nothing glorious about getting your leg blown off.
That's so well put. Thank you so much, because I feel the same exact thing. I'm sickened by, people don't know what it's like to A, serve, B, they don't know what it's like to be in combat, C, they don't know what it's like to be in a hospital with young people. And some of these guys are 50, 52, 53 guardsmen coming back, they're blown, their faces are gone, their legs are gone, 2 genital amputations a day in theater. People have no idea of their names, who they are, where they are, what's happening. It makes me sick. But if we're so unprepared for what's coming back from Iraq, and that we asked them to make the sacrifice, and we were so unprepared to receive them home. What makes this president think that widening the war is such a great idea? What is the key to explaining to Americans now how to understand Iran and what the president is doing there?
But he doesn't need to explain. Again, you know, you and I, and I'm sure there's a handful of listeners out there, probably your listeners more than a handful, but people in America who are getting it. You can see the glow appearing above their head as the light bulb starts to turn on. You know, they're going, whoa, wait a minute, okay, there's something wrong with this picture. But the vast majority of Americans continue to wallow in ignorance about the world we live in. And from that ignorance is derived fear. And from that fear, you become easily manipulated. Again, the majority of Americans don't care about the troops. They simply don't. They live their day-to-day life. They get disturbed when you criticize the war because somehow they take umbrage about you're putting down the troops. I watched Congress give this ridiculous debate on a non-binding resolution, and some idiot from Tennessee, some female representative who hasn't served day one in the military, wearing her nice little dress, perfectly coiffed hairdo, etc., is up there talking about how Iraq is a struggle for our national sovereignty, and how she's praising the troops and talking about the dignity of the troops, etc. You know, there may be dignity in the troops. I'm not saying there isn't, but don't dignify this war, ma'am. You know, what the heck is going through her brain? But she's up there saying that, you know, we need to become Nazis. We need to put on armbands. We need to salute smartly and not question our unitary executive who's taken on the position of, you know, nobility. He's now King George. He's now President George. We have a Congress that ceases to function. A non-binding resolution? What kind of tragic joke is that, Congress? There should be no non-binding resolutions. You either put up or you shut up. If you're going to vote against the war, vote against the war. But to have a non-binding resolution so you can stand up there and tell your constituents how pious you are against this war, then you turn around and fund it so more kids die and come back to Walter Reed and can't get treated? Nah. That simply doesn't cut it. It's high time we start holding our elected representatives accountable for what they're doing in our name, and what they just did the other week is a travesty, a shame, and they should all be punished for it. And now we're talking about going to Iran. You think the American public know anything about Iran? Ask them to point it out on a map. They can't.
Well,
ask them to tell me what the importance of Chabahar is. Ask them to tell me what Isfahan is. You know, where the nuclear. Ask them to spell nuclear first of all, and if they can begin to do this, then they might be able to comprehend what's going on. But they can't. So the president's getting away scot-free. The American public isn't engaged. They don't care. They don't care about the military. They don't care about a war. They just want to turn on TV and have Fox News tell them how wonderful we're doing as a nation.
I agree with you. So here we are today, though, and the president is goading us into Iran and goading Iran.
Oh, look, this is serious stuff. I mean, this isn't a joke here.
Now, I know you were in Iran. I know you were in Iran in September. Tell everybody what you did there.
Well, I went there to research and write an article for Nation magazine about the government. Again, you turn on TV, and again, it's just indicative of the overall ignorance that I'm fed up with the American people. I love America, I love my country, but you know, I just walk the streets of America and go to any city, and I'm just fed up with the pious ignorance that exists. And they sit there and they talk about Iran as if they know something. They listen to NBC Nightly News or ABC talk about Ahmadinejad, the president. I'd be surprised they can pronounce the name right, but let's say they do get it right because they've heard it enough. We're talking about it enough. We made him the poster child for demonization. Ahmadinejad this, Ahmadinejad that, wipe Israel off the face of the earth, reject the Holocaust, oh my goodness, and we've got to go take care of this guy. But if I said the Ayatollah Khamenei, people would go, huh? I said, well, wait a minute, we're really talking about the power in Iran, right? You guys know that Iran is an Islamic republic. You've read the Constitution of Iran. I assume you have, because you're talking about the government as if you know what it is. You know, we don't call Iran a democracy. If we did, Ahmadinejad would be the leader. He's the democratically elected leader of Iran. But we call Iran a theocracy for a reason, and that's because it's governed by a theocrat, the supreme leader. There is the Guardian Council, the Expediency Council. These are religious-driven institutions. This is where the power is. These are the people that count. And I went to Iran, and it became very obvious. And it's obvious the Iranian people, every one of them, from top to bottom, said, why are you guys focused on Ahmadinejad? I mean, he's nothing. The power is the Ayatollah Khamenei. And we now know that in 2003, the Ayatollah Khamenei approved a 2-page letter to be transmitted to the U.S. government in which the supreme leader said, hey, we're willing to put our nuclear program on the table. We're willing to, suppress Hezbollah, Hamas. We're willing to recognize Israel. We're willing to do anything to normalize relations with the United States. All you have to do is stop saying you want to get rid of us.
But Condi says she doesn't know about that. She missed the whole piece.
This isn't the first time that Condoleezza Rice has lied under oath to the United States Congress. I'm certainly hopeful that at some point in time, these newly empowered Democrats will recognize that when a government official in the conduct of his or her duties lies before the American people or lies in the conduct of these, that's a felony offense. And I'd love to see the sergeant of arms walk up and cuff that lady and throw her off to prison because she lied when she said that.
I know she did.
It's just a bald-faced lie. Her staff is saying she lied. Everybody involved with that process recognizes that came across. Now, she's saying, well, there may have been a letter, but, I didn't recognize the importance of this letter, da-da-da-da. No, it was a deliberate effort by the Bush administration to suppress an effort by the Iranians to avoid conflict. Let me remind your listeners, the Iranian government is not searching for enemies. They do not want war. They fought an 8-year war with Iraq that devastated them physically, fiscally, emotionally, morally. They put in the ground hundreds of thousands of their own. Their economy has not recovered. The last thing they need or want is a fight with the world's sole remaining superpower. They are concerned about what's going on in Iraq. They have 130,000 American troops occupying a nation that they border with. The American troops are a destabilizing presence, not a stabilizing presence, and the Iranians are concerned that a government that emerges from the American occupation may continue the policies of Saddam Hussein in seeking confrontation with Iran. They do not want that. This is why Iran is engaged. They have every right to be engaged. Would we be shocked to find out that Americans are in Canada, or that Americans are in Mexico, or that Canadians are in America or Mexicans? No, because we share lengthy borders with these nations. There is common concerns, common history, common projects. Why are we shocked that the Iranians are in Iraq, especially when we empower the pro-Iranian militias to take control?
I know. And I want you to hold that thought because I need to take a break. And when we come back, I want you to describe for the listeners what it might look like if Bush gets his final wish and widens this war against a country who has reached out to us in the name of peace, putting everything that the president wanted on the table, including the nuclear program for peaceful purposes and otherwise, if there was such a thing, including, you name it, whatever the president wanted was on the table, including recognizing Israel, including not, helping Hezbollah, including, backing off of supporting any terrorist activities. And Condi says, I didn't get the memo. So hold on a second and we'll be back, okay?
Sure.
Thank you.
Third time I've said that. I'll probably say it 3 more times. In my line of work, you got to keep repeating things over and over and over again for the truth to sink in.